We are following the order of the Shulchan Aruch, and Baruch Hashem, we're still in the first siman, first saif of the first siman of Shulchan Aruch, which we said was be brave like a lion to stand in the morning to serve your Creator. That you should be the one who wakes up in the morning. So now we're looking at some of the Halacha Berura aspects, the annotations of Rabbi David Yosef. And he writes the following: Tov lomar baboker miyad bekumo mishato. This is obvious to everybody. It's good, appropriate for one to say in the morning immediately when rising. Modeh ani lefanecha, right? Melech chai v'kayam. I'm thankful to you, before you, King, the live King, that you returned my soul to me. Shazata b'nishmati v'hemla rabba emunatecha. All right, very good. So that's the pasuk. We all know it. V'yafsik me'at. So just a little nuance in this pasuk that we say in the morning. You notice there's no name of Hashem here, so we have permission to say this pasuk. We're not saying a beracha, and we haven't yet washed our hands in the morning. It says here, "V'yafsik me'at ben tevat behemla letevot rabba emunatecha." So one should pause between the words behemla, pause, rabba emunatecha, that you returned my soul, to me. Behemla. What's chemla? What does chemla mean? Mercy or compassion, right? Chama, Rabba emunatecha. Great is your faithfulness. In other words, I can always depend on you, Hashem. Great is your faithfulness.
So what's the purpose of the pause?
That you returned my soul to me, behemla, with mercy, with compassion, all right, and not behemla Rabba emunatecha. With great mercy is your faithfulness. So we're differentiating between the context of the pasuk. Okay. Where is this from? This idea. It comes from the verse in Echa, Hadashim lebekarim, Rabba emunatecha. All right, new to the mornings, great is your faithfulness. Ve'yachol lomar modeh ani, and he can say modeh ani afilu kodem shenatal yadav shaharit, even before he said he's washed his hands in the morning. Okay, we said that. Good.
Question: when they say tov lomar, is it like an option? Because they say tov lomar. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's like a halacha.
Right. You're right. I mean, the halacha. There's no halacha that says say modeh ani when you wake up.
Excuse me.
For sure. No actual halacha.
What's he asking?
It says here tov lomar, that it's good to say.
Good to say.
It's appropriate
so
to say.
Not necessary 100% to say.
Apparently so. Let's get a one of the reading here. Let's see.
Should have a commercial. Brought to you by Don't Buy These. Now we know.
We're start having like a blender here and you come in, a juicer.
It's that time, so I put it on the commercial, like a commercial. Yeah. A juicer, you're the only ones doing it.
All right. Interestingly enough, even though you're right, Rabbi David Yosef brings down the idea. He uses the words tov lomar. Nonetheless, the Kaf HaChaim is posek. Sofer. He's posek that he rules that one should say modeh ani. One is obligated to say modeh ani in the morning. Modeh ani lefanecha. What's the idea behind this modeh ani? It's great. You're starting your day off with an attitude of gratitude. You're starting your day off with being thankful. If you start your day off on this positive note of being grateful and thankful for everything, then everything sort of flows from there. Unlike you see the classic picture of the person getting up in the morning, hitting their snooze button, then they wake up late, then they stub their toe on the night table, and then there's no more toothpaste in the toothpaste tube, and then everything one thing after another, and everything goes downhill from there. So here, we're telling us the idea of being grateful the minute our eyes open in the morning. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. That's the ultimate thing that for us to realize that's part of our purpose, our mission, our tikkun is to be makir tov to Hashem, to recognize the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in everything, to be thankful for everything. Okay. So next idea, we're going to now look into some of the words of the Rama in his Hagaha of the first Saif. He starts off with a principle. He says, after he says the practical idea of just try not to be late to pray with the tzibur, to pray with the minyan, then he gives you a principle. He says, Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. I place Hashem before me constantly. Okay? It says here, Hukla Gadol B'Torah. This is a great principle in the Torah, says the Rama. U'Ma'alot HaTzadikim, and in the great levels of the righteous, Asher Hochim Lifnei Elokim, who walk before God. V'hainu, he asks, he explains, She'etzayer b'nafsho tamid, shu omed lifnei melech machel malchim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person should constantly visualize or envision himself that he's constantly standing before the King of Kings, the Almighty, the Holy One, blessed is He. Asher meloko eskavodo, whose glory, whose honor fills the universe. And he adds a little idea for us as well to actively do this. Based on the Arizal, he writes, "She'etzayer Hashem Havaya Tamid Mul Enav B'Nikud Irah." Okay, that the person literally is not only I place Hashem before me constantly, that I'm constantly thinking that Hashem is standing before me. Take the pasuk literally. I place the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, before me constantly. So I should always have the name of Hashem in my mind, visualizing it as I'm going through my day, with the specific nikud, the specific punctuation of the word Irah. So under the first Yud you have a chirik. Then under the K you have a shva. Okay, under the Vav you have a kamatz, and nothing under the Hey. So like the word Irah, right? With a chirik, a shva, and a kamatz, put those punctuation vowels underneath the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and have that in your thoughts, visualizing throughout the day.
Wow.
Okay? It's an actual meditation. It's a meditation. It's an actual meditation, or kavana. Okay? And that is the sod, he says here, of the pasuk. I place Hashem, literally, Yud Kei Vav Kei, before me constantly. V'yesh bazeh, and one who does this, yesh bazeh to'elet merubah, shtiya alav yirat shamayim. If one does this and practices doing this with this meditation of having the name of Hashem with the punctuation of the word Irah underneath it, it will bring upon oneself a great level of yirat shamayim. Okay, a little trick for you, a little strategy for you throughout your day. Okay. ונוהגים לקבוע בבתי כנסיות על כותל המזרח שיביתי השם לנגדי תמיד. And we have the, here we go, השתבח שמו לעד. We have the minhag, all right, of writing in the shuls on the eastern wall, the Shiviti Hashem, this pasuk in particular, with the mizmor of Lamratzeach bin Ginot Mizmor Shir B'tzura HaMenorah, with also the mizmor of the famous mizmor of Lamratzeach bin Ginot Mizmor Shir on the menorah. There it is over there, exactly. Well, very good. If you know, I think in the Kila Center they actually have it on the parochet, or on the parochet. They have it actually the menorah there.
Some of the other
no, before you stand.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
you
that
just said that too. That's why I looked there. I thought if we had that one, but we have the other one.
Yeah. So that's very good. So you have this with certain names, holy names of Hashem, and these things that are called the shiviti. They call it a shiviti. If you ever go to a store, to a Judaica store, and you find a shiviti.
You ask them for a shiviti.
Do you have any shiviti posters? And it's sure you get them all everywhere.
Yeah.
They're the best. And it's good to have one in one's house as well. I mean, we have one. I haven't put it up yet, but we have one in our house. Or I have one on my stander. It gives you it's something to meditate on, something to focus your thoughts when you're learning, when you're praying. Okay, so this is the idea of Shiviti Hashem and Tamid. The person should place Hashem before me. And the Arizal says, just to review quickly, the Arizal says a little strategy. Literally, I place the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, in front of me all the time. And he advises that one should constantly meditate or visualize the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, with the punctuation of the word Irah, Chirik, Shva, and Kamatz, underneath the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And when he does that, it's a to'elet, it brings person to have great levels of Yirat Shamayim.
I found it's very hard because some of the P'tach Edecha, for example, they say that you should see those letters.
We'll do that one day.
Okay, but it's very hard for me, because I guess maybe it's too fast in the tefillah, that to write the letters in my head, and I just found it hard.
Right. At the bare minimum, certainly.
That's yours.
That's me. Oh. This is my wife's phone. I don't have a phone yet on my wife's phone.
Oh, you didn't know it was yours.
At the bare minimum, when certainly just to digress for a second, with P'tach Edecha, at the bare minimum, one should at least have the kavanah that Hashem is zanu farnes lakol. Hashem is constantly farnesa comes from Hashem only. You have that kavanah, you yotzeh all the chavot. Person doesn't even have that kavanah, they have to go back and say all vashrei.
Wow.
That's halacha.
Wow.
Okay, very good. So that's and we have the minhag. It says here that the place Shiviti Hashem on the eastern wall, okay, and the Torah of the menorah like we have over there with us. So this is called the Shiviti. So if you have a chance to get one, you should get one. It's good. Okay. Good morning.
Here, it's right here.
Okay. Follows din imutar lilbosh begadav kodem netilat yadayim shacharit. וכן דין אם מותר ללכת 4 אמות או להרהר בדברי תורה קודם נטילת ידיים שחרית יבוא ערוב יסת דשמיא דלן בסימן ד'. So if while we're on this idea of getting up in the morning, the halachot, if one is permitted to wear his clothes before or put his clothes on before washing for yadayim shacharit, or if one is permitted to walk 4 amot or to think of thoughts of Torah before having washed them shacharit, we'll get into that in Siman Dalet with all the other laws of Netilat Yadayim shacharit. Just so hold on, for those when we get there. Okay, bet in the Shulchan Aruch, second halacha in the Shulchan Aruch of Siman Aleph, second seif. המשכים להתחנן לפני בוראו יכוון לשעות שמשתנות המשמרות שהן בשליש הלילה ובסוף 2 שלישי הלילה ובסוף הלילה שהתפילה שתתפלל באותם השעות על החורבן ועל הגלות רצויה. This is a very important halacha. One who gets up in the morning, we said he gets up before dawn, before the crack of dawn, that you should be the one that wakes up in the morning. On that theme, one who gets up to supplicate, to give supplications before his creator, he should try to time his getting up, as it were, to the mishmarot, to the changing of the guard, as it were. The Gemara Masechet Barachot talks about there are different changing of the guards that took place, in the Beit HaMikdash, and based on that we also have this sort of changing of the shifts that took place. One is the first third of the night, then we have the second third and the last third. So the night's divided into thirds. Okay. So why is this important? Because the tefillah that a person does during these times, particularly after the second and third of the night, the prayers that a person puts forth during those hours on the Khurban, on the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, and on the exile, not only on the exile of us as a people, but the exile of the Shekhinah. Shekhinah also went into exile when we went into exile as well, the divine presence. So when a person has that, prays during these times, it's a very, very desired prayer. Hashem wants, in other words, Kibiyachol Hashem wants this prayer, is a very, very propitious prayer during this time of the night.
When is that time?
So we're going to get to it right now. There we go. Okay, so he says here in the annotations, our rabbis, the Kabbalists, were very particular and emphasized the importance of one being awake at the time of Hatzot HaLayla, the midpoint of the night. I will not say midnight because it's not midnight every single 12 o'clock, it's different. And at the midpoint of the night, it is appropriate to say Tikkun Hatzot. Okay? Because it is appropriate for every person who is God-fearing, who is reverent of Hashem, to be mitzta'er, to have pain and worry and concern over the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay? And our rabbis, the Kabbalists, spoke greatly about the benefit of reciting Tikkun Hatzot. To the extent where we even have a halacha, if a person is up early in the morning, let's say during the month of Elul, and he has a choice whether to do Selichot or Tikkun Hatzot wins. That's the halacha. It's better to Tikkun Hatzot than it is to recite Selichot. That's the halacha. ויש אומרים שאם קשה עליו להתאחר ללכת לישון אחר חצות הלילה כדי לומר תיקון חצות, then there are those that say that if it's difficult for him to stay up very late and to go to sleep only after the midpoint of the night so that he's able to say תיקון חצות, וגם לקום בבוקר להתפלל שחרית עם נצח חמה, and also to get up concurrently in the morning to pray with the sunrise. Okay, so you're going to bed after 1 and getting out basically before 6 or at 6. Let's say now in the winter time. Adif yoter she'omar tikkun hatzot. It's better for him to say tikkun hatzot, v'yitpalel shacharit achar hanetzach hama, and to pray shacharit after netzach hama. V'al kol panim yizaher shelo ya'acher zman kriyat shema u'tfilah mechamat amirat tikkun hatzot. Nevertheless, you should be very careful not to be tardy, not to miss the time of kriyat shema and amidah, because he said tikkun hatzot. Okay, so it's not a double jeopardy here. You take Tikkun Hatzot, but don't miss your time for Kriyat Shema, which is obviously later in the day, or in time for Amidah. Okay, that's what he said. So, yeah,
It's enough time.
Exactly. Okay, uma'alat. So what typically do, and I've always, you see this in Eretz Yisrael a lot, that the seder, the order that you're supposed to live his life, is different from the way we live our life in the Western world. If you think about it, the ideal time to learn Torah is at night, after Hatzot. After Hatzot, the most ideal time. And it happens to be, if you ever, it's usually the quietest time in the house. Everyone's sleeping. You can actually focus. I find, at least my mind is very, I have clarity and I'm clear at Salul when it's that time of the night, post midpoint of the night, and you can actually focus. Try to learn, or when you go to a shiur, or at least that happens to me, if you give a shiur or you go to shiur, where in the evening time, 8, 9 o'clock, you hardly have that, that the focus is difficult, during the day. But when after Hatzot, that's the idea. That's the idea. A person has this. The Gemara says a person who learns Torah at night, he has a chut shel chesed, that he has like this this energy of chesed or kindness that surrounds him throughout the whole day. Okay. Now, uma'alat amirat tikkun Hatzot, and the benefit, the great benefit of reciting tikkun Hatzot, is hashuva af yoter mima'alat amirat hasichot b'chodesh Elul, is even more important, like I said, than the benefit of reciting the sedichot in the month of Elul. V'im yesh lo efsharut lomar rak echad mehem, ya'adif tikkun Hatzot ala sedichot. And if he only has the option of saying one or the other, tikkun Hatzot is better, more preferred. Okay. So now, when? Here we go. And the hatchil ba'amirat tikkun Hatzot. Now that we're on that, okay, we're going to get into some details of it. One should not begin reciting tikkun Hatzot kodem Hatzot halala, before the midpoint of the night. Because according to the opinion of our rabbis, the Kabbalists, the hours of the time that is before the midpoint of the night are not times, propitious times, not times of desire. According to Sod, it's times of Gevurot, times of Dinim. Like we say in Mizmor of Shabbat, I say during the day, in the morning is your kindness is Hashem, and at night I speak of your emunah. Why do I need emunah at night? And why can't I talk about emunah during the day? Because during the day, things are clear. You know what's going on. You can figure out things out. So, thank you Hashem. I see everything. I can know what I'm doing. But at night, it's dark.
That's what we say be'emunah after Shema.
Exactly. Emunah. Very good. So we need emunah at night. So, and why? When at night? During this time of the night, from Tzitah Kohavim until Chatzot Laila, from when it starts to come out into the midpoint of the night. This time of the night is called the time of dinim, time of gevurot, harshness, or strict judgment time. So it's not the right time to say tikkun Hatzot. It's not a propitious time.
Rabbi, speaking of not saying things at night, between what times you cannot say Tehillim? Between sunset until sunrise?
Sunset to Hatzot, to the midpoint of the night. After the midpoint of the night, you can recite Tehillim. Essentially, tikkun Hatzot is a compilation of Tehillim. That's what it is. Okay, and some verses from Echa, but essentially it's Tehillim. So after Hatzot, one can recite Tehillim. There was a Rav in New York. He's the grandson of Chaim Shmulevitz, and he's also Kubal. Very simple person, amazing, but Talmid Chacham, very, very great Talmid Chacham. His name is Rabbi Moshe Milstein, and he was very, very particular about not reciting Tehillim at night until after Hatzot. He says not only that, it causes harm. If a person is saying it for one who is sick, it causes harm to the person who is sick. It does not cause good.
Why? What's the reason behind
so mikra, any mikra, so reading Torah, learning Chumash, for example, or any mikra or Tehillim during this time, apparently it's not like a propitious time. Now that's not to say if a person doesn't do any learning whatsoever, don't worry, you still you'll get some learning. Or if it's an emergency situation, the person has nothing else to say, and they have a Tehillim, and it's going to connect. Then I've also said, fine, do it, type of thing. But if you can learn something else during this time, whether Mishnayot, Zohar, Gemara, whatever the case is, Midrashim, that you're fine. Yes.
When we do the bedtime Shema, there are Tehillim incorporated. When we have Yom Tov, we have Tehillim that's incorporated.
Very good.
So how does that work?
Right. So what's part and parcel of the tefillah is sort of the formula that Chachamim put together. That they chose specifically these for Kriyat Shema Mitah. These specific types chapters of Tehillim have a protective effect, as it were. against whatever might come to harm a person at night, and the like. So that's why this formula, apart from obviously these are the exceptions to the general rule, I would say.
So one more thing. So you said mikra also is not preferable not to say it in the nighttime?
Preferably not to learn at night. Correct. Preferably.
To learn, but what about to read?
Right. Exactly. To learn to read. Yeah. The only exception is Thursday night or Erev Shabbat already, where a person has to be mashlim, let's say the parasha. And that he has to finish the parasha by the end of the week. We have a halacha, actually Shulchan Aruch, that a person should read his parasha, Shnai Mikra,
So that can be done on Friday night.
Friday night and Thursday night, Mishmar. So there's in the yeshiva world even.
Oh, that's what they call it,
Mishmar. Right. The yeshiva world, it's the customs of Thursday night to be learning up all night or learning late. As it were, really it's up all night, learning on Thursday night, preparing for the parasha, and getting this ha'ara of Shabbat already.
So on Shulchan Shabbat, when you sit with the family and talk about the parasha.
So wait, the exception is also Yamim Tovim and Shabbat. So there's no. These are sort of the time of Shabbat, Friday night, the time of Yomim Tovim, certainly the time of, let's say, Pesach, which is called a Leil Shimurim, a night of protection. You can do whatever you want. Like within confines of Halacha, that a person is protected. So too, Leil Shabbat has this effect, and Yomim Tovim, the night of Yomim Tovim, a person can certainly learn Parasha and Torah during those times. It's during the week that a person should try to be careful. And again, the idea is if a person is not learning anything at all, or a person only knows to learn Torah, Chumash, learn, please learn. Okay. Very good. So he says here, so he said not why Ela. So what are these hours before Chatzot? Hem sha'ot shel hitgabrut hadinim ba'olam. These times between when the stars come out up into the midpoint of the night are hours or times of lots of harsh judgment in the world. And immediately when the midpoint of the night hits, there's an arousal of kindness and compassion that occurs in the universe. It's just the structure of the time it works. Now, when is Chatzot? According to us, Uzman Chatzot Halayla hu 12 sha'ot bidiyuk achar hatzi hazman sheben ziyuchat hashemesh lishkiata. So the time you want to calculate Chatzot, the midpoint of the night, is exactly 12 hours from the midpoint of the day between sunrise and sunset. Okay, so 12 hours after midday. So calculate,
what's midday?
It's like 1 o'clock.
Here we go. Kigon. For example, let's say sunrise is 5 in the morning. This is probably in Eretz Yisrael or in the summertime. Sunrise is 5 in the morning. Ushki'ata, and the sunset is at Shesh Ba'erev, at 6 at night. Okay? So it comes out that the midpoint between them is 11:30 in 11:30. It's alright, that's already 11:30 in the morning, or 12 o'clock, that's 11:30. The midpoint.
12 hours after that.
Right, exactly. So this is the time of Chatzot, alright, Yom. And 12 hours after that, the Hainu, at the time of 12:30, okay, at night, it's the time of 11:30 at night, is the time of Chatzot Laila.
Do we have that early, 11:30?
Well, for us it's later, because sunset's not at 6. Maybe now, it'll be around that time. But sunrise is later, no, it'll be later.
Right. So it says here, "B'chol makom ba'olam," in every place in the world, yesh lechashev hazman lefi hazvicha v'ashki'a b'to makom. That we have to calculate the sunrise and the sunset in the place that the person is at. Because there are some people, there are some opinions that say that you could say Tikkun Chatzot when it's Chatzot Laila in Eretz Yisrael here. In other words, time it there. I knew some people who actually tried to live their life according to the time of Eretz Yisrael in Chutz La'aretz. It's challenging.
Is it allowed to do that?
They tried. They're allowed to or not. They tried. There were some opinions that said it was okay.
So is that like lighting candles in 2 in the afternoon because it's Shabbat at that time?
Yeah, it's challenging. Okay. When we call Makom Toshavei Chutz La'aretz, those who live outside of the land of Israel, Sheratzu Lomar Tikkun Chatzot, that want to say Tikkun Chatzot, Zman Mu'at Kodem Chatzot Laila, a little bit before the midpoint of the night. Ukvar Higia Zman Chatzot Laila B'Eretz Yisrael U'Yishalayim Yer Kodesh, and the time for Chatzot Laila, midpoint of the night, already happened in the land of Israel and Yerushalayim. Yesh Lahem Al Mashe Yismachu. They have on what to rely. Only if you're so you don't want to wait so much longer. It's a little bit before Chatzot, and you want to time it then maybe that would be okay.
It can't happen. The time change doesn't allow it to happen.
Right.
So it won't happen.
So in Europe, probably would make sense. You're in London, England,
Yeah,
3-4
you're-
hours.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Right. Very good. Okay, so we'll stop here for Halacha today.
Can I have something before
Yeah,
I forget?
please.
Yesterday in your speech, you said a story about humility.
Mhm.
And who was that student? Rabbi Yosef, right? Last night I picked up my son from my friend Shimi's house. He was down south. There was a whole thing going on there. You know the new shul at Shelbourne? There's like a little house at Shelbourne and
Oh, yeah.
Shelbourne and something. So he goes there and he sees all the rabbis there, and one of the rabbis is telling the story. The exact same story that you told.
I've heard the different.
With a different rabbi.
It's possible, yeah.
Ashkenazi rabbi.
It's possible.
So-
I've heard different versions of the story. It's true.
You did, eh?
It's true.
So I challenged my son on it, and he goes, "Oh, why don't?" And he's got mad at me. So I said, "Hold on, no, just like you got to ask questions. It's ironic that you said the same speech as he did the same day. You said Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, and he said some other rabbi.
It could have been Rabbi Joseph learned the story from the previous, knew this maaseh from originally what happened.
Yeah, and then
before.
he just
But, so
imitated it.
who was in that story?
In what?
Was it two different incidents, or
Yeah.
there was
I
in
think
one
it was two different
incident and they changed the names?
No, it was two different incidents.
I mean,
The one I read, the one the European, the Ashkenazi one, and it happened
Yeah.
like generations before Hambadia. So it could have been he had learned that. That's
Right, and he modeled that from that.
Wow.
I found that very ironic.